It's science. You need to stop doing that. My biggest piece of advice Hi everyone, Brittany here from Just Be Crafty. If you're new here, welcome, and if not, thank you so much for coming back. In today's video, I am going to share 5 pieces of advice I wish I could share with myself back when I first quit my job to become a full-time knit and crochet pattern designer. Now, these pieces of advice are tailored towards me and my journey along the way. Maybe relatable, maybe not relatable to somebody else. I don't know if I've seen any other videos quite like this before, and I'd love to see more. So if you're in a similar situation to me, maybe you quit your job to pursue some sort of passion project. It doesn't have to be knit or crochet pattern design, but something similar. I'd love to hear, advice you'd give your past self. Let's dive into the advice. The first 2 pieces of advice kind of go hand in hand. So the first one is realizing that quitting your job might be a little bit more difficult than what you might think. This is aside from any sort of financial reason. We're not going to dive into anything like that today, but basically with the sole thing that is tied to your job is, I think I didn't realize that a lot of my identity was tied in to my job. Maybe this would be completely obvious to you. I don't know. A lot of your identity is kind of tied to your job. When you meet someone new for the first time, or you're just catching up with someone that you know, a lot of times their first question is, what do you do? Or how's your job going? And when you have a normal classic job, it's a tangible thing. So I was an executive assistant. I worked at the University of North Carolina, and that was a tangible thing. So I was able to just say, oh, I'm an executive assistant. And the person I was talking to would either ask to elaborate or just accepted the answer and moved on. When I first quit my job, it was something that when someone would ask me that question, I would definitely get into my head about it. And I think I still do kind of sometimes. This line of work, I guess. So I'm essentially a blogger and a YouTuber, and I have an Etsy shop. It's kind of a new thing. Not a lot of people do this. There are obviously a lot of people online that are in this type of space, but not like there's a lot of people online, right? But when you talk to people in person, not a lot of people can relate to that. And so it's just, I don't know, it could be kind of awkward. And it almost makes me feel like I just have some sort of made up fake job that I'm talking about. And I guess when I would talk to people, I would just kind of get in my head about it. So that is definitely a me thing and not, another person thing. It just made me feel super self-conscious, and it was something that I was not prepared for. Next goes into the thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that. And it is to not care what other people think and to really get out of your own head. So when you tell people what you do, or I tell people, oh, I'm a knit and crochet pattern designer, I have a YouTube channel and a blog, people are either genuinely curious about it or they really just don't care. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but when someone asked me before what I did and I said I was an executive assistant, maybe someone would ask me about it and maybe they would just accept that and move on. I never thought twice about it. So why would I think anything about it now if someone either just kind of doesn't know how to respond or just says, oh, nice. I mean, that's probably the same thing that they would have said before when I said I was an executive assistant. So my biggest piece of advice for myself back then and even now is to just not care what people think. Honestly, people they're not focusing on you as much as what you think that they are, and they really just don't care, and they're not thinking about it like you are. So just stop worrying about it. My next 2 pieces of advice also kind of go hand in hand. And number 3 is to stop searching for the best productivity method on YouTube. Just stop doing it. You will 100% be more productive in the next 15 minutes if you just start working on the thing than you would if you were watching a 15-minute video on how to be productive. It's science. I think the problem was not knowing where exactly to get started. I have been designing patterns for quite a long time, but I wasn't used to doing it, all day, every day. So I didn't really know how to organize my time. And so I think I was constantly searching for the best way to be productive and how to feel more productive. And what it really came down to was I really just had to figure out the content that I wanted to get out there in the world, what YouTube videos I wanted to make, what patterns I wanted to make, and what I wanted to put on my blog. I basically just needed to figure that out and just start doing it instead of wasting hours upon hours watching productivity videos on YouTube and getting absolutely nothing done. My next piece of advice, which is number 4, and this goes with productivity, but it's to stop trying to find the best way to streamline my processes and kind of streamline my schedule into a way that is the most efficient way. You need to stop doing that because you don't have a process yet. And this is specifically to me. I'm not, speaking to you, I am speaking to my past self, is you don't have any processes yet. You just quit your job. You are doing something completely different than what you're used to. Yes, you've been pattern designing for quite a while. I think at the time that I quit my job, I had been doing my blog for about, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years at that point. I had been doing it for a while, but I was used to doing it in my spare time, and I wasn't used to doing it full time. So I didn't really have any processes yet. And if you don't have any processes yet, you can't figure out how to make them more efficient, and you can't streamline them yet. You basically have to get some actual processes under your belt by, running through all the things that you need to do to design a pattern, all the steps, and that's formulating the pattern, and that is kind of like drawing up kind of the design that you want to make, and then figuring out how much yarn you're going to need and what yarn you want to pick at all, and then actually start knitting or crocheting it up, making sure that it works and that you actually like it, and then moving on to finishing the piece and then writing the instructions so that not only you can understand it, but anyone who picks up the pattern can understand it. And then, of course, the photography and the editing that goes into that, you have to basically just get started. You're not going to jump out the gate having the most efficient processes and the most productive way of doing things. You have to actually put in the work to get to a place like that. And now I had quit my job back in, how long has it been? It's been since 2019. In January of 2019 is when I quit my day job to do this full time. And it's now March of 2023, and I am still learning. I still don't know the best way to be productive. I still don't know the best way to streamline my processes, but I do have a better idea, and I have gotten faster with things. It kind of just comes with exercising that muscle memory and doing it over and over, and you do just become naturally better at things, and I think you naturally become more efficient at things, and you're not going to find it in some sort of YouTube video. You might find a really great advice in a YouTube video. There are a lot of, great productivity and scheduling and productivity advice out there. That is really great. But I think the best way to do it for yourself is to just get started and do the work. So if I had learned that a long time ago, I probably would be more efficient than what I am now. But I'm learning, and that's all that matters. My fifth and final piece of advice for myself would be to make work a priority. Now, I realize that sounds like a complete no-brainer. Obviously, if you quit your job and you're going to do something like this full time, you need to make it a priority. What I will say with something like this, and I'm sure I'm not alone, if you're in this type of space, in the blogging space, YouTube, selling on Etsy, at least selling crochet patterns, it can be a pretty passive income. And a lot of the work that I am putting in now, so like let's say a pattern that I design now, really might not be beneficial to me until it circulates on the internet for a little while. That could be a month from now, that could be a year from now. So work that I am putting in right now isn't a lot of times beneficial to me financially until about a year from now. So that means that work that I put in last year is what is benefiting me right now. So that means I can take a break off of doing this for a week. I could probably take a break from this for a month and not notice a dip in my income. But where I will notice that dip is a year from now. And so that can be kind of challenging, when things come up, because you don't immediately need to do something for this type of job, or you might not feel like you do need to be doing it, but you might not feel like you need to put in the work now, or you feel like you can put something on the back burner. It's like, oh, well, I'll do that later. Well, things just can keep piling up. And then, before you know it, a couple months go by, and, what have you shown for it? And really kind of in the past year, there was a lot of stuff going on. It was honestly a crazy year for me. And I put my job on the back burner, and, you can't do that. So you really need to make that a priority. So that is definitely something that I would tell my past self, you really need to make it a priority, and no one else can do it for you. That's It's only something that you can do. So anyway, those are my pieces of advice that I would give myself. I am curious if this resonated with you, and I'm talking to you knit and crochet pattern designers, and maybe you're not a knit or crochet pattern designer. Maybe you quit your job to pursue another passion project, but I'd be really curious to hear the pieces of advice that you would share with your past self to pursue your dream full time. I invite you to make a video like this, and if you do, make sure you let me know in the comments below. I'd love to check it out. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. It's a little bit different than what I typically do. If you liked it, make sure you give the video a thumbs up so I know to keep making videos like this. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!